Your orchard is blocking community progress, so deal with it. 12 words. 12 sharp, dismissive little bullets. That was the exact line HOA President Karen fired at me, standing on her perfectly polished porch, swirling a glass of white wine like some kind of suburban crown jewel, while she erased 30 years of my work with one arrogant flick of her wrist. She said it calmly. No blink. No heart. No hosetaschen. She stared down at me from her hillside palace while I stood ankle-deep in mud, holding a jar of water that smelled like a public swimming pool more than anything you'd find in nature. Most people, when they hear something like that, when someone tells them their family's legacy, their life's work, the very soil they were raised to protect, is just an inconvenience, they crumble. They get sad. They consider selling. They let the world roll over them. But me? I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt a switch flip inside me, cold, metallic, final, like the bolt of a rifle snapping shut. Because that jar of water I was holding wasn't just dirty. It was poisoned. And Karen's little insult wasn't just rude. It was a declaration of war against my land. And if there's one thing you never, ever do to a farmer, you don't mess with his dirt. My name's Mike. I am Pinjishonte Druge. Nothing fancy, just a guy with graying hair, calluses that never wash out, and a spine that complains every time it rains. I own 15 acres of organic apple orchard in a valley that used to be nothing but quiet and trees. My father bought this land before I was born, planted the first saplings himself, taught me the rule he lived by. A tree is a trust, take care of it, and it'll take care of you. We earned our organic certification with decades of sweat and stubbornness. That stamp isn't just a marketing slogan, it's a promise. It means clean soil, honest work, no shortcuts. Then Lakeside View Estates arrived, and with them came Karen. Karen was the kind of woman who behaved like the world was a customer service. Count her, and she was determined to speak to the manager, even if she was the manager. She ruled that shiny new HOA development on the ridge like royalty. Her SUV spotless. Her blazers expensive enough to insult my entire wardrobe. And her smile, if you could call it that, was just teeth arranged into a threat. To her, I wasn't a neighbor. I was an eyesore, a disruption, a before picture in her HGTV fantasy. It began the way these battles always begin, small, stupid, and petty. A letter in my mailbox, though I wasn't even part of her HOA, telling me my barn needed to be a neutral earth tone instead of red. Then complaints about tractor noise. I ignored it. She was background static. But Karen wanted legacy, prestige, a reputation. Her big idea? A massive eco-friendly drainage pond and water feature right along the ridge, directly above my orchard. She called it green. I called it what it actually was, a disaster waiting to flow downhill. So when construction crews rolled in, I walked up the hill, boots muddy, trying to be civil. Karen, I said, if you build that pond there, where does the overflow go? She didn't even look at me. She just waved toward my valley and said, it follows the natural grade, Mike. It's rainwater. It'll help your trees. It's not just rainwater, I reminded her. It's runoff from your roads, your lawns, your pool. If that gets into my soil, I lose my certification. She gave me that expression, condescending, smug, pity mixed with superiority, like I was a child interrupting adults. You're being dramatic. It's approved. It's happening. Maybe modernize your farm instead of holding back progress. I walked off that ridge with a pit in my stomach, but I hoped, prayed the engineers weren't idiots. They were. Or worse, they were obedient. 2 months later, the first big storm hit. A downpour, blinding, deafening. I was in the orchard at 2 a.m., checking drainage when I heard it roar. Not thunder. Water. I sprinted toward the southern slope, and there it was. A buried pipe, one I'd never been shown on any plan, blasting a cloudy, chemical-smelling stream straight into the roots of my gala trees. I stepped into it, and the smell hit me instantly. Not rain. Bleach. Fertilizer. Chlorine. I looked up the ridge. Through the storm, Karen's lights were on. She was standing at her window, watching. I didn't sleep that night. I dug trenches for 12 hours trying to save what I could, but the damage was done. By morning, The soil was coated in a slimy residue. Within 72 hours, leaves started curling, yellowing, dying. That's when I marched to her door with the jar of tainted water. That's when she told me to deal with it. So I did. Just not in the way she expected. No jelling. No srets. I went to the one person Karen feared more than a cloudy day ruining her HOA newsletter photos, a lawyer specializing in environmental negligence. His name was Daniel Keats. Young, sharp, office buried in maps and soil reports. When he saw the lab results, he went silent. Chlorine at 3. For ppm, I said. Nitrates off the charts. The microbes are dead. My organic certification is gone if I report this. Daniel looked at the photos, the hidden pipe, the contaminated soil. This isn't runoff, he said quietly. They pipelined it. On purpose. To save on filtration costs. Mike, this is a slam dunk. I don't want a settlement in 5 years, I said. I want her stopped now. Daniel smiled, a predator's smile. Then we don't just sue her. We expose her. Because I guarantee you, nobody in that HOA knows she turned their eco pond into a toxic dump. The plan was simple, but it required patience. We needed proof Karen knew what she was doing. We had to show it wasn't an accident, just greed. So I became a ghost. I set up trail cams along ridge, high def, motion activated. They caught everything. The landscaping crew dumping pool shock into the intake. Karen pointing toward my orchard and laughing with the contractors. But the real smoking gun came from someone unexpected. Laura, quiet, timid Laura, one of Karen's board members. She found me at the fence one evening, shaking. Mike, she whispered she lied. She cut the filtration system. The original plan was safe, but she vetoed it. I printed the emails. Please, don't say I gave them to you. She slipped an envelope through the fence and fled. Inside, the proof. An email chain where the contractor warned Karen. Diverting the overflow without filtration violates code. And Karen replied, cut it. The farmer won't know the difference. He's just looking for a handout. She knew. She signed off. Willful negligence. I called Daniel. I've got her. Good, he said. Because she's planning a public victory lap this Saturday. A garden tour. Press. Realtors. The whole neighborhood. All celebrating her eco-friendly water sanctuary. Perfect. A stage. A spotlight. A downfall. As Saturday dawned bright and sunny, music drifted down from a ridge. String quartet. Caterers. Guests. Karen stood proudly at the railing overlooking the pond and my dying orchard. And here, she announced into a microphone, our natural filtration basin, feeding the ecosystem below. That was my cue. I didn't go up. I didn't need to. I prepared something better, right for my land. I stepped out from the tree line, right into the open space below her terrace. And I wasn't alone. I was driving my tractor, slow, steady, deliberate, pulling a trailer behind me. On that trailer were 3 massive, hand-painted signs. Sign 1, warning, toxic runoff zone. Sign 2, chlorine level 3. 4 ppm, deadly to soil. Sign 3, HOA President approved direct discharge. I parked the tractor dead center in their perfect scenic view. No one could. Pretend not to see it. The music cut off. Conversations froze. 50 people on that terrace went stone silent. Karen's voice cracked through the speaker system. Ignore that. Just a disgruntled neighbor. So I grabbed my megaphone. I'll admit it, I was dramatic. But she destroyed my trees. I wanted her to feel every ounce of what she'd done. Good afternoon, I shouted, my voice echoing across the whole valley. I'm Mike, the farmer down here you've been ignoring. Before you clap for that eco pond, maybe you should know it's currently killing a 30-year-old organic orchard. Because Karen didn't want to pay for a filter. Karen shrieked into her mic. Security? Someone stop him. I'm on my land, Karen. I shouted back. You can't touch me. But you can explain why you lied to your own board about the engineering report. Up on the terrace, I spotted Laura. Her hand flew to her mouth. Weston, another board member, stared at my signs, then at the yellow, dying trees behind me. Anyone could see the damage. Is that true? Someone yelled from the deck. Is that why the trees are yellow? No. Karen snapped. He's lying. I have emails, Karen, I said. Contractor to Caldwell, dated March 12th. Just bury the pipe. The farmer won't know. You want me to read the rest? Panic washed over her face, raw, visible panic. Whispers rippled through the crowd. A reporter who'd been invited to the garden tour snapped photos of my signs, then aimed her camera straight at Karen. Cornered, Karen did the only thing she knew how to do. She doubled down. This is harassment. She screamed. I'm calling the police. Please do. I yelled back. I'll happily show them the pipe. The party disintegrated instantly. People left. Realtors whispered nervously. The reporter kept taking photos. Karen clutched the railing, watching her perfect event collapse into headlines. But that wasn't the real disaster. The next morning was still desperate. Karen tried to hide the evidence. I woke to the sound of heavy machinery. Looked up. A bulldozer was on the ridge. She was trying to bury the pipe deeper to cover the outflow. I called Daniel. She's tampering with evidence. Let her, he said. She's panicking. She'll screw up. He was right. The hill was already waterlogged. When that bulldozer pushed tons of wet soil over the weak slope, it happened fast. The ground gave way. Not a catastrophic landslide, but enough. The cheap retaining wall buckled. A wave of mud, rock, and decorative pavers slid downhill, smashing through my deer fence and burying 3 rows of apple trees. The bulldozer tipped forward. The operator jumped out just in time. I sprinted out with my camera. It was a disaster, but it was also her downfall. Within minutes, the entire HOA board showed up. Laura, Weston, others. They stood there staring at the collapsed slope, the buried orchard, and the bulldozer hanging half off the ridge. Karen was screaming at the operator. You idiot! You ruined it! Weston approached her slowly. I could hear his voice from where I stood recording. Karen, did you order this? I was trying to fix it, she yelled. He was going to sue us. You just destroyed the hillside, Weston said, and you almost killed someone. He looked down at me, covered in mud, holding my camera. You just admitted liability. Then Laura stepped forward. Her voice was steady. I'm calling an emergency vote. Right now. You can't. Karen screeched. All in favor of removing Karen as president and suspending her authority pending legal review? Laura asked. Every single hand went up, even her loyal followers, even the neighbors she'd bullied for years. You're out, Karen, Weston said. Go home. Karen looked around at the wreckage, at her neighbors, at the reporter pulling up with her camera ready. Then she looked at me. She didn't say a word. She turned and walked home. The mediation happened a month later. No trial needed. The HOA's insurance company took one look at the emails, the lab results, the landslide photos, and surrendered. We sat in a conference room. Karen was there, but she wasn't the same person. Smaller, older, nobleza, just a gray sweater. She wouldn't even look at me. Daniel laid out the terms. We want full soil remediation. We want the drainage rebuilt to code. We want compensation for the destroyed trees, for certification loss, for a year of income. Total claim, $380,000. The HOA lawyer barely sighed. We accept. Karen gasped. That's the whole reserve. Laura leaned forward. Maybe you should have thought of that before you buried the pipe. But Daniel wasn't done. And Mr. Riggs wants a public apology, written, signed, and printed in the community newsletter and the local paper. Karen snapped upright. No, I won't. I did what I thought was best. Then we go to trial, I said, and I will put you on the stand, under oath, and you will explain why my livelihood meant less to you than your landscaping budget. And when you lose, and trust me, you will lose, you'll be personally liable. She stared at me, hate in her eyes, but the fight drained out. Her hand shook as she signed. 2 weeks later, I got the check. The crews arrived to work for me this time. We dug out contaminated soil, rebuilt drainage, replanted. A year later, my certification was restored. The orchard lived. As for Karen, she sold her mansion and ran off to a condo in Florida. Tried joining their HOA. Someone Googled her name. They laughed her out. Back home, things changed. Laura became president. She brought muffins and a real apology. We should have stopped her sooner, she said. It's always easier to give bullies what they want, I told her. until the mud starts sliding. Now, when I walk the ridge at sunset, checking new saplings, I look toward that mansion. A new family lives there. Kids play in the yard. They wave. The pond is still there, but it's safe now. I learned something in that war. Bullies thrive on silence. In the hope you're too polite, too tired, or too scared to push back. They think they own the ground because they can afford to pave it. But they forget one thing: roots go deep. My dad used to say, "Take care of the land, and it'll tell you the truth." He was right. The land told the truth loud enough to topple a queen. So I'll ask you, have you ever had a neighbor who thought their convenience mattered more than your livelihood? What would you have done if you saw that secret pipe dumping poison onto your property? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And hey, if you like stories like this, tap like, drop a comment, share this video, and subscribe to Neighbor Wars HQ for more real-world battles from the backyard front lines. Keep your roots strong.